All right. Good evening, everyone on Facebook and YouTube. I'm Chris from the Common Grounds podcast. Tonight, we've got a really exciting show. We're going to be talking to John and Neil from Active Self Protection. If you don't know who that is, you've been in the dark for a while. They've got an awesome YouTube channel, awesome training program, and a whole bunch of stuff that they're doing to help people be safe around the country and around the world. So we're going to get that rolling here in just a second. But I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in tonight to the show out there in the internet. And so if we have any struggles tonight, technical difficulties, lag or anything, there's a lot of people using the internet right now. There are a lot of people streaming. And so if we have some technical difficulties, my apologies, but it's not within my control. So stay tuned and here we go. All right. Good evening, John and Neil. How are y'all guys doing tonight?
Wonderful. Thanks for having us, man.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Common Grounds. I really appreciate y'all coming on tonight and talking a little bit about your story and your journey to this point. And that's what I've been doing on the Common Grounds. I don't know if y'all tuned in for a couple of my episodes, but a lot of times people don't get to tell their backstory. They don't get to tell I don't know if Neil, if you've been on the actual show or if you're mostly behind the scenes with John's show or what, and John, I'm not too familiar if you get on and tell your story a lot, but a lot of times it's just like, hey, this is what we're doing. This is the show, or this isn't the brand, this is the company, and there's no backstory to it. And everybody has a story to tell. And that's what's the interesting part of life is the story. It's not necessarily where we're at right now, but where we're at right now, it's kind of lame. Nobody's going anywhere. But let's talk. We'll start with John. John, tell us a little bit about you, a little bit about ASP, Active Self Protection, and then we'll get into the show.
Yeah, sure, man. Active Self Protection is a self-defense and firearms training company. We're based out of, now I guess we're kind of based all over the place, but I say the company is based out of Phoenix, Arizona, because that's where I live. It has existed since 2011 and has been my full-time gig since 2018, my solo gig since then. If you know me because we have one ginormous YouTube channel and a second one that's not tiny. We have our main channel, Active Self Protection, has about 1.64 million subscribers right now. We average about anywhere from 15 to 25 million views a month. We have a second channel, Active Self Protection Extra, just crossed 100,000 subscribers. And we teach there every day. What we're known for is people send us real life surveillance videos of armed robberies, carjackings, muggings, stabbings, home invasions, and we do after action reviews on them. So we walk through, this is what happened, and then we walk back through and we say, here are the principles of what self-defense is. And if the good guy makes it, this is what he did right in order to make it. And if he doesn't, this is where it all went wrong. And so I learned that after action review ethic in my time in the U.S. Navy. And so that's what we're known for every day. We also travel all over the country. Neil is one of our head instructors, and we travel all over the country and teach people mostly handgun skills, but also church safety. And we have a signature seminar where we do lessons learned. We're also starting to teach red dot skills, appendix carry skills, and we're going to foray into carbine skills here this year too.
Excellent. Neil.
I'm the marketing guy. That's the easiest thing to say. But, so my gig here, basically I travel around and do a lot of the training with John. We do most of the classes together, the two of us. Sometimes we bring in staff. Sometimes we bring in some other help. That's probably the most fun part for me. The other side of it is, I've been a sales guy for 30 years now. And, it's a pretty natural fit to go out and do the marketing side for John. I spend all the time working up all the relationships from the different sponsors that we've got on the channel, and just manage that to make sure that everybody's getting what they need, that it's a benefit for them and it's a benefit for us. And, it's not a terrible hard sale. for me when I can say, hey, we've got 1.6 million fans and they're all looking for information about self-defense. So if you're a self-defense company, we're right up your alley. It gets a little bit more difficult when you get into those that aren't necessarily in that realm, but that's why John pays me the big bucks. I go after those guys and we have a lot of fun. So it's a good relationship and we really enjoy it.
That's one of the things, and that is how the market is changing and how marketing has changed even in the last 90 days even is a big difference. And one of those shifts on the marketing side of the house that I like to look at is, people that went to school for it, that graduated 4 years, there's no physical books on what is going on now or how YouTube works. I mean, they might have some courses somewhere if they're on the cutting edge of it, but man, it's a whole new ball game out there.
It's significantly different. And what I find is that, dealing with a lot of these different companies, they've all got their quote unquote social media expert that that does this. And like you say, it's so new and everything is changing and it's so fluid that I don't know that there's an expert out there that has it completely in hand. I think we're all kind of working as well as we can. And John tinkers with the videos to get more views or a better layout or something along those lines, we're tinkering with the marketing at the same time, and everybody's doing that. So if somebody says that they are the be all and end all of social media marketing, they probably aren't.
At least until they changed the analytics.
They might be that day, or they might have been yesterday, but today's a new day.
Yeah.
Well, and I say to people all the time when, so, all right, we'll say the newspaper's been around since basically the invention of the printing press, right? So since Gutenberg, but when radio came along and everyone, the newspaper's dead. And look, radio is going to kill the newspaper. It didn't, but it did change things. And the newspaper stuck in there. And then when television came around, radio's dead. Television killed the radio. Well, it really didn't. It just changed things. It changed the way that people connected. And now, wait a minute, the internet has killed television. It's just changed things, So all those mediums are still there, but how we connect with people changes. And if you're not tinkering, trying to keep up in a technological age, you are behind, man.
I told when I was running ads for the range that I used to work for, I told them the guys that were targeting our neighborhoods with the flyers, in the paper. I said, hey, y'all got to stop throwing it on Wednesday night. And he goes, well, why? I was like, Thursday's trash day. I go out to the curb and it's laying by the trash can. Where do you think it's going?
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yep.
Come on, man. I mean,
simple stuff.
Simple stuff. You got to be thinking.
So, John, we'll get back into the meat and potatoes. When you transitioned in 2011 to start doing ASP, what compelled you to be like, you know what? I'm going to start a YouTube channel and I'm going to talk about what these guys are doing in this video.
Funny part is, this company started 2011. YouTube channel didn't start till 2016. So for the first 5 years, ASP was really just I guess for the first 2.5 years, it was just me teaching handgun classes on the side. So I had gotten into self-defense in 2006, really. I grew up hunting, but I didn't start carrying a concealed handgun until 2006. I was running a video game store while I was going to seminary. I was going to graduate school. I was a pastor. And managers were getting mugged for Xbox 360s and PlayStation 3s. And I was like, not me, man. I'm not going to be that guy. And so I went and got my concealed carry permit and started carrying a gun. Well, not long after that, I started taking martial arts with my son. And not long after that, I figured, man, I better train with this gun a little bit so that I know what I'm doing with it, just like I train in martial arts. Well, it gets expensive. So I started the company in 2011, basically so I could write off ammo, thinking, gosh, if I teach some classes, then at least I get to shoot too, and I can claim them as business expenses. So that's when the company started. Social media started in 2013. I think it was 2013. Facebook started allowing business pages. And before that, it was just individual profiles. And about that time, as I was getting into the defensive training world a little bit, the blue-haired ladies at church were getting a little frustrated that I was putting gun stuff on my Facebook. They didn't like that. They didn't like their pastor talking about, armed robberies. And so I started the business page to get that stuff off of my personal timeline so that the blue-haired ladies were happy. And of course, I don't just mean women on that. There's dudes too who are, hot and bothered about that. It's a controversial subject in the Christian church. So that went in 2013. At the end of 14 is when things really changed. October 2014, Facebook started rewarding video content. They started saying, oh, hey, we want to get into the video game, and having people, there were no videos on Facebook before 2014. So you think about that, and people are like, dude, I watch videos on Facebook. That's like half my freaking newsfeed today is stupid videos, and cats and stuff. But not before 2014. So they said, hey, we want some video content. And about that time, somebody sent me a video of a guy just shanking his baby mama. He just got angry and just murdered her with a knife. And I put it on the channel like, whoa, this was a real knife attack. And it went ballistic, like it went very viral. And I was like, wow, that was crazy. At the same time, I took that to my martial arts teacher, and I was like, his name's Professor Lawrence Robinson, and a great friend. And I was like, hey, Professor, like, I don't know what to do against this. I've been training martial arts now for like 8 years, and I'm not sure how to handle this attack. And he's like, well, let's workshop it. So then the idea was like, dude, I mean, we could use a real life attack to say, this is what an attack really looks like. So let's train against that kind of attack. So, put a few videos up like that. That was really cool. And then somebody sent me a video that was like 5 minutes long, but the first 4.5 minutes were just nothing. The first 4.5 minutes were just literally nothing. And then 30 seconds at the end of action. And I was like, dude, I got to cut that off there. And I had software on my computer that I knew could do that, but I didn't know how to use it. So to the YouTubes and, Google search, give me a basic tutorial on Adobe Premiere. And in that basic tutorial, it had, here's how you record audio on your, in your program. And I was like, because before that, I was just kind of typing in the description, hey, watch this, pay attention to this, here's some things to think about. And I was like, oh, I could just say that. And man, then I could be like, I could interact with people in that way. I could be like the John Madden of on-camera violence. And so I did it, and it was on Facebook is where the oldest videos are that are the narrated videos. And we started doing this in 2014, and they just blew the Facebook page up a little bit. And then the YouTube came about in 2016 because I had a couple friends that were telling me before that, dude, you need to be on YouTube. YouTube is your area. You should be on YouTube. I was like, nah, man, I'm on Facebook, dude. I got Facebook audience. Facebook's my place. And then YouTube sent me an email in early, like April 2016. We're like, hey, you can monetize your channel if you want. I had a channel. It had a couple videos on it, but I didn't really mess with it. So it had gotten up to about 6,000 subscribers just because I think people knew from the Facebook page and they'd see those things. And they were like, hey, you can monetize your channel. And I was like, well, it's like walking down the street and finding $5 bills. Like, who would say no to that? And then I had all these videos. We had about 500 videos that we'd already made for the Facebook page sitting that are already done. And so I was like, well, I'll load some of those up over there and see how it goes. And the rest, as they say, is history. Well, it's 3 years coming up next week of history that people responded to them very well. And indeed, YouTube was probably, I was stupid not to go sooner. And it's just really blown up. So from April of 2016 to April of 2020, so now we have 4 years that we've been running the YouTube channel. We've gone from 6,000 subscribers to 1.64 million subscribers, and it's been a heck of a wild ride. So that got really fast to be a significant income stream. And that's when actually Neil wasn't the first Widener to be employed by Active Self Protection. His wife, Stephanie, is the CEO of Active Self Protection, in fact. And at the end of 2016, I hired Steph part-time to be my admin assistant because the business was growing. And I was like, oh, I can't do all this stuff. Help me. And then by the end, it wasn't, I think a few months more than that, I was like, okay, I need you full time. And I think it was end of 17, Neil, that you came on?
Somewhere in that ballpark.
Yep. And same thing. I was going, Neil, I don't know how to handle some of these sponsor relations. I think it was August of 17. It was the first Carry Guard Expo.
Yep.
And then I was like, dude, like, this is how professional, this is how thought out this all was. As we were sitting there at this conference, and he had come because Stephanie needed to come, and they got away. And I was like, dude, why don't you deal with some of this? You're a salesman. I don't know how to do that stuff. And like, I don't know, we'll figure it out. And he was like, okay, we'll figure it out. And he started went.
Yep.
It works like that sometimes. It works like that. So when I talked, I don't know if you remember But when I was still running marketing at the range, I talked to you about possibly doing a sponsorship on your channel, and Neil had just came on board. And that was the first time I talked to Neil. When you were like, "Hey, Neil's my new guy. He's handling all that. Talk to him. See what we can do." Because you were running and gunning in about 3 different directions the day I talked to you, and that was 2007. What is it? Yeah, that was 2017, 2018, maybe, when I was still there.
Yeah, it sounds like how it is now. We've got, including me, 7 employees in the company now, and it's funny that I said I hired Stephanie as my assistant. Now she has an assistant. And now she bosses me around. I don't know how that works, but it does.
If only you'd listen better.
We do great if I'd listen more.
She's going to turn around and watch this, Neil.
Yeah, I know. She's sitting in the other room watching right now, so I'm probably going to be in trouble. But yeah.
Oh man,
I'd say,
so it's been a heck of a ride, and we love it, man. I love it. I love what I do for a living. We get to help people every week. We get messages of people, "Man, John, you saved my life." And of course I always say, no, I didn't save your life. You saved your life. Tell me what happened. And man, I heard your voice in my head, and just amazing stuff. So it's really gratifying to help people.
That's really cool. When I first ran into you it was one of the guys that I was training with, that I used to train with in Missouri back when I was still active duty. This Delta guy who's just retired, and he had a training group, and we'd always go out and shoot, and just an awesome dude. And he started sharing your videos. And I was like, well, hey, I like these videos. I'm going I used the one of you not you, but of the cop in the elevator with the gun in he tries to put the gun back in his holster and he shoots himself.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I use that in my safety video all the time. I used to be like, look, watch this. This is why you don't pull your gun out and show people your gun when you're
carrying groceries. This is why we don't play gun games.
Yeah. Don't do this.
Yeah, we see those all the time. We get those every once in a while. We've got about 3 or 4 range accidents on the channel of people doing stupid stuff with guns on the range and shooting themselves. And I don't go looking for those, but they show up often enough that you go, okay, people, you're buying all these guns, and I'm all about it. I'm all about, conceal carry, but make sure you do it smart, and let's not shoot each other, shall we, or ourselves.
When you transition from the YouTube channel so it was training company, then YouTube channel, then you use the YouTube channel to grow the training company, correct? Yeah, it's kind of come back around full circle in some respects. Yeah. Yep. And I mean, I would still say for sure the YouTube channel is our bread and butter, right? The 2 channels are definitely where we pay our bills. And when people say, John, what do you mean you train self-defense? I train 20 million people a month in how to better protect their families. The second channel, Active Self Protection Extra, gets around 500,000 views a month, but it's only got 100,000 subscribers too, so that's not too bad. But we also use that now. We have what we call the Cover Your Asp tour, where we travel all around the country. Not right now because we're all on stay home, but in fact, this coming weekend we were supposed to be in Iowa. We're gonna postpone that bad boy a little bit, but we travel all over the country. And I try so hard not to go and do this more than once a month, but Neil will ping me and go, hey, have you got anything on your calendar this weekend? Let's do that. Want to make some money? And I go, not really, but let's do it, And so we teach our signature seminar, which is lessons learned from analyzing 25,000 gunfights. And we teach our evidence-based pistol skills, which we take the lessons we learned from analyzing 25,000 gunfights, teach people the most important skills they have to have in order to win a gunfight. That's a 1-day and a 2-day format. We normally teach the 1-day, but we do have the 2-day as well. We teach church safety. I was a pastor for 14 years. And so I approach church safety and security from a very pastoral perspective. It's honestly, I have not seen the approach that I take taught anywhere else in any other church security seminars. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with any of those. There's great guys teaching and gals teaching church security. I'm not angry about any of that, but I approach it from a perspective of a pastor of a church of 150 and how a family like that can protect their family. And it's way more than active killer. We also do, like I say, we're starting to do appendix carry class. Basically, most of the ASP staff carries appendix. I think there's only one who doesn't right now, and we're just gonna have to fix Samuel, Neil. So I'm just gonna call him out right there like that.
just gonna have to fix him. But and then also Red Dot, we're all dot folk, and Red Dot is life. And so we teach. We're beginning right now. We're going to teach a class called Dot Curious. It's not for people who are really driving dots, but for people who are like, yeah, I've really thought about getting a red dot, but it's expensive to get into. And so we've got kind of a fleet of guns, and come show up, we'll teach you the basics of doing this and get you in there and those things. So we just brought on as a brand. Part I've been wanting to do, which is, here comes the internet. I'm back. Are you guys back?
Yeah, we're back. For a minute. They didn't get the name.
Oh, okay. So we're brand ambassadors now. We just signed as brand ambassadors for the Lone Star Armory, LSA. Make fantastic carbines. And so one of that is my impetus to go, yay, I'm finally going to get to teach carbine like I want to. Yay. So we're going to see that on the extra channel, as well as probably do a couple of one-day home defense carbine classes, which should be fun.
Nice. When we're going to shift back a little bit, and we're going to talk about one of the things when I got into watching your channel, and I was, you always take a perspective of, how is this guy learning anything from watching YouTube? But now, years later, after sitting here and learning a whole lot of stuff off of YouTube, I totally understand where you're coming from.
Did you learn anything on YouTube today?
Everything.
The last time, when my wife's had a minivan and the door handle quit, I didn't call a mechanic. I went on YouTube. How do I fix this? When I go, hey, how do I bake a cake? I just look it up on YouTube. I mean, you learn anything on YouTube, for grace's sakes.
And if you sit there, it totally. What was one of the biggest things when you started watching all these videos and you started noticing trends? What was the first major, if you can think back to it, what was the first thing that you said about a commonality?
The first one came from the very first video. If you go on the Active Self Protection Facebook page and you dig all the way to the bottom of the video stats, and there's 500 or 600 of them. Okay. So you got to dig a while. You got to be bored. You will find the very first surveillance video that's on there. There was like a couple of other videos that were like joking. There was like, there's a couple of joke ones, but then that one was the very first one. And that was the very first thing as I went, knife attacks are nothing like you've been taught. Real life knife attacks are nothing like Hollywood depicts. They are nothing like most traditional martial arts train against and train to. Real life knife attacks are brutal, fast, mean, and personal. And if you don't understand that, man, you are just in a bad spot. So you see these knife attacks in martial arts and traditional martial arts. And again, I'm a 14-year martial artist. I have a 2nd degree black belt in a derivative of Kempo known as Umas. I'm also, I roll jiu-jitsu. I'm a white belt in jiu-jitsu. Don't ask me jiu-jitsu questions. But, is you get this thing where they attack you with a knife and they stick the knife out here like this and then let you beat the crap out of them, right? Just doesn't work that way. So that was like the very first one is, again, I took that video to my martial arts teacher, Professor Robinson, who's a good friend. I don't call him Professor Robinson other than in public. Lawrence, I don't know what we're going to do. I suck. And he was like, dude, let's train it. Let's go. And what a humble man. And so that was the very first thing that I learned. And that first day, that very first one that I saw was when I said, okay, we can learn some things here, because this taught me the reality of the attack that I need to be prepared for. And that by itself was an incredible lesson. So then I started going and watching videos to go, how do attacks really happen? What are the things that we really see? What are the patterns that emerge? And now, I mean, gosh, in the full lessons learned file, we never get to all of it because it's like 38 lessons long. I need like 6 hours.
Wow. I've been thinking about that. So there's a video you've taken. Now I'm at a total loss for words here because I've lost my list of questions. Hold on just a second here. I'm sorry. My apologies to everybody out there watching. ShivWorks. You've taken the knife class from Craig, right?
I have not taken any of Craig's curriculum. I want to. Okay. I've talked to Craig many times, and I respect him highly, and he's invited me. And in fact, it was supposed to be on the schedule for right about now, but unfortunately that didn't happen. So I've told Craig, I'm like, look, man, I want to get to ECQC and I want to get to EWO big time. And of course, Craig's curriculum is pressure tested, and his stuff is the gold standard for sure.
EWO, I've taken ECQC once and EWO once, and I've hosted him 3 times. I wasn't able to take EWO the 3rd time, but it is exactly like you talked about in the knife. It's not the flourishing and the type of stuff you see on movies and stuff on a knife attack. It is definitely not. But we're not here to talk about applied violence. That's not the theme of my show. My theme of my show is business. So when you shifted your YouTube channel back into training, how did you decide to do that? Or was there ever a shift from training directly into YouTube? Because I'm trying to run a YouTube channel, a podcast, a small business, a Facebook page, and an Instagram. And if I added one more thing in there, which I have, it's hard. Where did you?
It's totally hard.
Yep.
And that's one of the reasons I started hiring staff. One of the reasons I started saying, listen, I can't do all this work. If we're going to grow this business, I need help.
Hired me. That was really the kind of the part where I came in when we were at that first carry guard. We were sitting at dinner, and I was there as a guest. Steph was there to work, and they had paid for us for John to have some staff there, so he called me staff so I could go along with my wife and have a weekend away. But we're sitting there at dinner, and John did at that time it was what do you call it? Lessons learned from watching 15,000 gunfights.
10 or something.
Yeah, something like that. And he did that presentation 4 times that weekend. And I'm sitting in the back as a sales guy and just goofing around. I'm sitting in the back and I'm literally counting heads. And one of them had like 350 people in there. And I'm running out the back because, you can't help but help when you're there, but I'm asking for more chairs because they're turning people away. And we're sitting at dinner and John's like, yeah, there's all of this stuff. I could use some help. And, and I'm like, I'm happy to help. Let's go start talking to, these different places for, sponsorship and that kind of thing. But then I'm like, as we're sitting there eating, I'm like, why are you not taking this on the road? Why are you not talking to, ranges about coming in and doing this lessons learned and then teaching, the skills to go along with it. And before we got home, that was in Milwaukee, wasn't it, John? Because
yep, sure was.
I drove. That's a long old drive. But before we got home, I had texted a buddy that owned a range, and we had one of these lined up that, just, hey, Tim, would you help us do this and be our guinea pig? And it launched from there. But for John to be able to do that on his own, I think that's the big key of where the company had to grow a little bit, and we've been pretty successful so far. It's a lot of fun. There's some hassle with that, just like anything, but it's a real good time to get to travel around a little bit, meet some new people, and train the way that from the perspective that we see that these are the skills that they need, and in a lot of classes that's not what they're working on.
Well, and Chris, to further answer that, when you talk about, gosh, man, I'm trying to do all this stuff. I remember when I had a first guy who first ever taught me marketing, and he was a good friend of mine. And he was like, hey, John, here's an overarching marketing plan for a message business, like you have with Active Self-Protection. And we got done talking about it after like 2 hours, and I wanted to cry. I thought I was going to throw up. Because he's like, okay, so here's what your YouTube channel needs to do. Here's what your Facebook needs to do. Here's what your Instagram needs to do. Here's what, if you want Twitter, what it needs to do. Here's your website and its place and all these things. And I was like, oh my God, you want me to do all that? Like, I'm going to die. And today, we do every bit of that and then some, which is kind of hilarious if you think about it. Like it's learning to have the capacity to do those things. Mm-hmm. So right now, between our 2 YouTube channels, we started the second YouTube channel because I wanted to teach stuff that I just felt like the main channel wasn't good for. The main channel is a one-trick pony. It does its after-action reviews. And so I was like, well, why don't I start a second channel and we could put some teaching on there, some direct teaching, handgun skills, martial arts, legal stuff, whatever. And so now between the 2 channels, we are now posting 15 and a half videos a week. So, I mean, it's a production schedule that for most people is insane. Now, understand, am just the idiot who talks on camera. Okay. So I barely even have a job. It's awesome. And then Neil's wife, Stephanie, is the CEO, actually runs the company and makes sure all the bills get paid and the staff gets paid and everybody's job gets done. We have a full-time video editor, videographer, and executive producer, John Masek. He's a professional rapper and incredible guy, led worship in my church for a year. And he gets all the videos ready for upload, makes them pretty, gets them uploaded, sets them, meta tags and descriptions and schedules and all that. Neil is our full-time director of marketing and chief marketing officer, as well as our training coordinator. So he makes sure that when the Cover Your Ass tour is going somewhere, it does that. So everybody has their role, right? And that allows us to do that. And it's a busy schedule. We say this all the time. I teach YouTube success. And one of the things we say is all the time, man, you ain't got no donuts to sell if you don't make donuts. So you got to make the donuts. You got to get up every day if you want to be successful and make the donuts. And we try to. I try to live by example in that.
Neil, do you have anything to add on that one?
No, yeah. I mean, it makes all the rest of our jobs a little easier when you've got a guy that goes and makes the donut. It's easy to sell donuts if you have donuts,
right?
But if you don't have donuts, it's a challenge. And there's several different mediums that he's got to focus on. And, every time I talk to somebody new or a different sponsor, they want to know about, how's Instagram going, or how's, where are you at with your Facebook group? Different people have, their different priorities. And because we've made donuts in every one of those markets, it does make the job a whole lot easier. Not that every one of them's a give me and they're not all slam dunks. And, just like everybody else, we get ghosted by people that are so excited about doing some sponsorship stuff, and then you start talking seriously. And when it comes time to actually do something, you get crickets. So it's not that everyone's a slam dunk, but it's certainly a whole lot easier than it is when there's nothing there, So I see some channels sometimes where guys, they're on again, off again, and that turns into a challenge. And that's what John talks about in his YouTube success stuff, is go out there and get there, get consistent, and, life happens a little easier then. And, at the end of the day, though, you just get more and more and more busy. And sometimes you got to step back and refocus on that and see that, if it weren't for all of this consistency, there'd be a lot more difficulty in the marketing side of it.
For sure. And you know what goes great with donuts?
Coffee.
And I freeze as I'm holding up my cup there. Yeah. It's a whole new ball game, man. Everything.
Having been in the Navy, I love my coffee.
I've got to get you some, John. Neil bought a pretty good amount from me a couple weeks ago, and had coffee coming from all different corners of the states. I got to get you some for coming on, John. So
yeah, we're due to order again. And what is it? The Liam and Ian, is that the name of the one? Yeah. That is by far our favorite.
And
so
we're sold out of the medium and only got like 5 bags of the light left. But he does have some of the dark roast, and you like some of the darker stuff, so you're good. But so it's such a challenge when you look at the different mediums, and you talk to people. And I had a conversation last night with a guy on a veteran group that I'm in, and he's like, I can't close the deal on any. He's a roofer, and he's been roofing for 15 years, and he's like, I can't sell my products anymore because I can't go face to face. I was like, okay, have you looked at targeted Facebook ads? Have you looked at targeted Facebook ads yet? Well, no. What Facebook doesn't work in my field. It didn't. But what does it do now when you can't get out? Okay. And he's like, no, it'll never work in my market. Well, you can't get out and talk to your people now. So have you thought about targeted Facebook ads where you do a video on your product and you target the exact neighborhoods that you've roofed in, and you target it with their neighbors, and you talk to their neighbors, and you get their neighbors to come out and give you recommendations on Facebook, So it's such a changing environment on everything that if you just discount it to where, oh, that doesn't work. There's a plumber on YouTube that has 1 million subscribers, and he talks about plumbing tips. If you're not on it and you're not getting into the different aspects of social media, and in all of its forms, you're getting left behind. And that's my rant. I'm sorry to rant, but
No,
Preach, brother, preach. Oh, get it. Can I get a witness?
Yeah, as I sit in, especially in, today's market, of the things that have happened over just the last month or so, it is so different than it was a month ago. And, the folks that are, you don't have to embrace the horror of all of this, the potential stuff that's going on, but you've got to embrace the change. And to survive it, you've got to make some changes. And so, I see a lot of friends that are, just complaining about all of the restrictions. And at the end of the day, you've got to still figure out your way through. And there is some opportunity. We've got some great technology. This, just this streaming software, I've been playing with that a lot lately. And, there's opportunity there if you want to take it, if you can keep your eyes open. And the challenge is sometimes we have a hard time opening our eyes because change is hard to embrace.
Yeah, it is.
John, do you have a physical location for ASP, or is everybody remote?
Everybody's remote. We all work from home. So what a cool thing. It's the year of our Lord 2020. So I work out of my home office in Phoenix. By home office, I mean the bedroom that used to be my son's before he, grew up and moved out. And Neil and Steph work in South Dakota, They're South Canadians. I have our videographer and video producer, John, lives in Phoenix as well. We have my law enforcement consultant lives in Northern Arizona. We have as well our director of instructional development, Samuel Middlebrook, lives in Yakima, Washington. And our Stephanie's executive assistant lives with him, sleeps with him, in fact. Yeah, it's his wife, Shannon. So that's a good thing. They have a license. And then we have another YouTube moderator who lives in Kaneohe, Hawaii. So we're kind of all over.
They're almost international.
Darn near. Well,
technically
the guy, he's a contract employee, but the guy who translates the videos into Spanish for me is in Venezuela.
Oh, really?
Yep. And he does a great job when he has electricity.
Right.
That's awesome. Are y'all going to do anything in Portuguese, since most of your videos come out of Brazil at this point?
So the funny part is that actually 23% of the channel content comes from Brazil and 46% comes from the US. So twice as much from the US as from Brazil. And we've talked about Portuguese, but you'd be surprised the number of people in Brazil that speak English.
Oh yeah.
And Google does auto translates on stuff, subtitles in some ways. And so that's easier and does okay. So my Portuguese sucks and will continue to suck, even though I have a Portuguese last name, which is kind of funny. But Portuguese, if you look on YouTube, it's like or not even on YouTube, but in Google, it's like I think the 12th most populous language or something like that. So, obviously you do English is number 1, Spanish is number 2. I think Arabic is number 3. Chinese is way down the list too, because of the walls that the Chinese government put up. So, it's a popular myth that the channel is more Brazilian videos than anything else. But I think some of that is because some of the real memorable videos come out of Brazil, because it's crazy down there in some respects. Even though I went and visited there last August, and it's a beautiful country, and I loved my visit and didn't feel unsafe once.
My wife's been I think she's been to Brazil twice. I don't know.
Nice.
She does a lot of travel down in a couple times a year. So yeah, that I wanted her to watch some of your videos, and she's like, no, I'm good. Okay. She usually has a driver and an escort, so she's fine when she goes other places. When you decided to shift totally over and start hiring people, at what point, what was your driving initiative behind that? What did you say? I just can't handle this anymore, I need help?
Yeah, that was it exactly. So the business had started making a little bit of money. And I realized pretty quick that I could either choose to try to maximize my income, or I could try to buy some time back. And at the time, the end of 16, I was the channel had started making money. I remember in August of 16, I think the channel made $1,000, and I was like, holy crap, $1,000! That's a crazy, great amount of money. By December, it had gone way up. December of 16 was darn near a high watermark because it was like March of 17 that we had the first adpocalypse. So it was up pretty good. And I was like, man, I'm not going to be able to do all this because I was still pastoring a church full time at the time. So I had a full-time job, and I was like, dude, and actually I think at the time I was still even teaching at the local college part-time. So I was just overwhelmed on time. And so I knew that either I was going to have to just cap this and let it just kind of simmer, or I was going to have to hire help. And thankfully we had a little bit of income. And so you make that determination, like, what do I need more right now? Do I need time or do I need money? And I decided, well, if I'm going to make more money, I only have so much time. So I'm going to have to hire somebody to do some of these things. And Stephanie was the easy choice. She was dedicated to the team. She had led as a volunteer for Active Self-Protection for, I think a couple of years. Was really good at what she did, and so was already helping. And I was just like, hey, can I pay for a few hours a week of your time? And she's like, yeah, let me talk to Neil, but I think we could do that. And so that's how it's grown. And every time we've talked about hiring a new employee, it's been in that same vein. Like, if I'm going to do this, I can't continue to do everything. I have to give up some responsibilities here, and to expect somebody else to do those, I've got to compensate them for it. So it's kind of crazy to me. I'm actually running the largest, well, not including the retail stuff. I mean, when I was in retail, I was running staffs of 20 and 30, but I mean, it's the largest staff I've run in a while, and it still boggles my mind that we do that on YouTube.
Neil, what did you think when you were in a full-time career when John offered you the position as a part-time, correct?
Yeah, I had a sales route. So previous to all of this, I used to run call centers, and and was, I guess, pretty good at it because they moved us around a significant amount of time to fix different issues in different cities. And it got to the point where we were just moving all of the time. And, when you've got a bunch of little kids running around your house, it's not fun to pack up and move once a year or whatever. So I made Steph and I made a decision to, come back home to South Dakota, which is where I'm from, and Steph's in this area as well. And, I started running a sales route, and nothing that I have any passion for whatsoever, but it paid the bills. It took care of my family, and until something better came along, I'm here to support my family, not for anything else. I feel like that's, why God put me here. And, when Steph started working for John, it was really good. We had a little bit of running. We had some issues we had a young son that we adopted that was some challenges with that family. That's what got us into this, which got Steph into it. And then I kind of came along because I'm the redneck gun guy of the family and the FUD of Asp that likes to hunt. And now I do self-defense stuff. So they like to give me a hard time.
Fair. I like to hunt. You just like the blaze orange.
Yeah, I look really good in blaze orange. Let's just, that's my favorite color, and I love it. But, pink camo, I'm not ashamed of that. I love pink camo too. So it's all good. But, when we had that first dinner in Milwaukee, I was like, I enjoy this stuff. There's, the passion around, the guns and that kind of gear, there's some passion for me. So let's walk around the floor and you talk to me about this stuff. I didn't know much about, what was a good product, what was a bad product, where, who would be a good fit. And really the fun one for me was the very first booth we walked up to was the Mantis booth. Yeah. And we met Austin and the crew from Mantis. And, as we walk around these shows, it's a lot like walking around shows with a bunch of junior high kids. I'll be completely honest, because we're always goofing around. We're laughing and joking. And, we just have a lot of fun. We really enjoy ourselves. And while John and Steph are sitting there having a ton of fun playing with the Mantis unit, I turn around and I look, and you can see the boss. He's always standing behind us. So I walked over and talked to him, and, and they were, I think they were pretty well established. They knew what they were doing. They had a marketing plan, but we struck up a conversation, and within a month we had an agreement. They've been a sponsor for the channel the whole time. And that immediately ignited it for me that, there's real business here. This isn't just a bunch of fake stuff. This isn't a hobby, which is what the IRS tells John it is, but it's not a hobby. There's real business that can happen here, and we can make a living at this. And so I just kept going at it. I worked 2 jobs. I worked for John kind of part-time and worked 70, 80 hours a week full-time over the road running this route. Signing contracts while I was driving down the road. I wouldn't recommend that to anybody, but
that's worked out well.
Yeah, that's worked out real well for us, hasn't it? But we've learned a lot of lessons along the way. That's and probably the best thing of this whole deal is John and I have and Steph have that relationship of trust that we can make calls, and it's whatever somebody feels like is important, we're going to do it, and let whoever that feels that it's important, does make that call. But what was it last fall? John came to me and he's like, "Hey, we got to get you out of this route. We got to get you, let's get you full time. Let's come up with a plan." And I think I was flying into Phoenix for something anyway. And so we sat down and kind of talked through the numbers and figured it out. And I'll tell you, it's been a transition. I thought I was going to get back 60, 70 hours a week, and I've really figured out ways to fill that, with ASP stuff, being home with Cody is, I think that's helped Steph as well. But, it's been a pretty fun transition. It's just, I was nervous. I'll be completely honest, but I think that it's going in the right direction. We're building things up. I'm replacing the income from the other job, and if we continue down this path and we continue to do things the way that we've done them so far, which I feel like is right, I feel like we're, open and honest with everybody. And if it's not a benefit to the sponsor, we don't want your money. And it's been so refreshing to work in a sales job where you don't have to take the money. Being in my other job, if there was a way to make a buck, we were going to make a buck. And if it didn't necessarily always have to be the most ethical thing or the right fit, and I think the thing that really sealed the deal for me probably was a couple of years ago when we were at SHOT Show. We turned down over 6 figures of sponsorship money from companies that really, they wanted basically what they wanted was the ASP name and the ASP, audience. But the thing is, you can really only sell your integrity once. And well, in that case, we would have sold it about 6 times in one setting, but we would have lost everything, and that amount of money would have been great for the while that it lasted. But we turned it down. I feel like we made the right decision on all of those. And, we've worked with companies that fit the bill and fit our model. And we haven't even started to talk about the national conference, but when we did a national conference last fall, every one of our sponsors lined up to help, and some helped in different ways, some financially, some with products, some with ammo, some with, just different ways. Everybody just lined up and said, yeah, we're behind you. What you've done for us has helped, and we want to get behind this thing. So it's been amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's really awesome. What advice would you give to a small business owner or someone like myself when they're looking at expanding, when they're looking at making that, I want to grow this direction in social media, or I want to grow this direction in marketing? What kind of advice would you give?
I always say to people that if you love what you do, then you find ways to do it in bigger ways, and it doesn't always cost a bunch of money. I think people think all this time, like, John records on expensive equipment and he has all this stuff and he's in this great place. And I'm like, nah, man, if you come over to the Ask Worldwide headquarters, like my light kit is $170 Amazon light kit. And I'm running a late 2014 model iMac, which I did buy new in 2015, but it's 5 years old now, and you don't got to have the latest and greatest equipment. I invest very strategically in that stuff. You don't got to invest a lot of money. You do got to really be focused on doing it the right way. And can you make a difference here? It's one of the things that we always say. Like when we just started our instructor certification program, I'm passionate about helping firearms instructors be great teachers. But one of the things that we asked and Sammy and I talked about was, can we make a unique contribution to the industry? Can we make a contribution here in this place that no one else is making? Because if we can't, I don't really have the time and energy to duplicate what someone else is doing. It just doesn't make any sense to me right now. But we felt like we could. We felt like we had a very unique offering. And so I said, okay, then we'll invest in that arena. When we started our second YouTube channel, Active Self Protection Extra, same thing. I was like, man, I want to teach more on the internet and not just show and talk about the principles, but talk about the techniques and the skills. Is that something that other people are doing? And so I looked around, and there's plenty of gun channels. There's plenty of people doing something, but I really think Aspects is absolutely unique in the entire YouTube sphere for what we do, pulling attorneys in and having them talk about legal self-defense and doing weekly dry fire and going to class and showing people that looks like. And so, all those things, it just makes it a unique thing. So what I tell people is go be a unique presence in whatever industry you're trying to be that, and go where you find passion. If you're passionate, now by passionate, I don't necessarily mean the best in the world at, but if you're not passionate about something, you're not going to be excellent at it, in my opinion. So be passionate and expand where you've got unique voice.
I would expand on that too, in that, if you're looking to build a team with some folks, find others that have some passion. Again, I mean, I've got passion around this. My skill set isn't as high as some others that are in this industry. I'd say I'm pretty average at that kind of stuff, but the passion is there, and I see the vision of the company. But you also got to have some people on your team that'll tell you no, and that'll disagree with you, and that aren't always going to be on your side. And I see some of these places, and some of the places that we turn down are full of a bunch of folks that everybody's on that exact same path, and nobody will say no, and nobody's going to sit back and critically look at your plan. It's pretty rare anymore that we disagree, but sometimes we disagree. And sometimes, and if you've got somebody that can articulate, here's why this doesn't feel good, or even I can't articulate it, but for some reason this doesn't feel good, then, John or I, or whoever it is that is on the other side of this is going, okay, let's stop and talk about it. Let's make sure everybody feels good about this. Let's explore this. If somebody doesn't feel good about this, there's a reason for that. And we've got people together that we feel like we can trust. Let's explore that. And if you don't have those people on your team, if everybody's a yes man, you're not going to go anywhere. It's gonna, and on the other side of it, if everybody disagrees with you, you're not gonna go anywhere that way either. So you've really got to hunt and find those right people that are willing to help. And, that's one of the cool things I find in this whole social media and self-defense world is there's a ton of people that are willing to help for nothing. You know what I mean? When I have a question about this, that, or the other thing, there's 20 different people that I can go on Facebook or text message or whatever and say, hey, I got a question about this. One of my favorites is Tim Herron. He's a shooter guy. When I grow up, I want to be the same size I am now, but I want to shoot as well as Tim Herron. That's who I want to be, right? But I was doing a video on some of our dry fire stuff a while back, and we were talking about some reload stuff, and I'm like, that's not me. I don't know reloads very well. So I sent Tim a message, and within like 20 minutes, he's like, here's 3 videos I did on this. If you got any questions, give me a call. That's just who those guys are. And that's one of the things, there's people that are not so great in the industry, just like there is anything else, but there's so many people that are willing to help. It's very refreshing.
When I think one of the things that I brought to the table or always wanted to do is a podcast like this. And I can remember, 4 years ago when I was still at the range, I wanted to do a podcast, and I was like, I've got enough contacts in the industry because I've been around, I was hosting classes in 2012, I'd been doing different things and knew different people and had enough to be like, what, I could get 12 shows easy with the numbers in my phone. I could get 3 months. If I get 3 months, well, then I could get the rest of the year. And nope, they're like, oh no, well, we don't want to pay you to do the time. Or then I moved to the next company. I was like, hey, we could do a podcast and we could do it this way, blah, 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 and we could bring people on and focus on this. And And they're like, no, let's wait to do that. And well, you know what? I started my own company, and guess what I did? I've got a podcast, and it works. And it, there's 5 people watching. We had 7 a while ago. And as we grow and we expose and get that exposure that we need, it's all about, setting your sights on a goal and attaining it. And I really appreciate you guys coming on tonight and talking a little bit about your experience. What do y'all have coming up, John? I know it's
I have a lot of
in the
staying
air.
at home and a lot of nothing. So, I mean, obviously everything in most places is on hold right now because of, the corona. And so what we have coming next right now, we are going to probably start a second cohort of our instructor certification before long. That we're hoping to start probably 1st of July. I don't know, Neil. I don't think that's too early to kind of say that's our hope for now. Do you think?
Right. No, I think you're good.
And so that's awesome. And we have our national conference that's absolutely coming up. That's the last weekend in September, Manhattan, Kansas, at Tallgrass Shooting Sports and Living Water Ranch. That's all to benefit the Flint Hills Foster Teen Camp. We don't keep a penny of that. That one's definitely coming up. We have the Cover Your Asp tour once the curve has been flattened and travel is more okay. We'll be back out there on tour. Right now, I think the next date is the end of May. And I'm hopeful that we'll be okay to keep that one in the end of May in South Dakota.
Yep.
And that's going to be a lot of fun. We got a lot going on there. Boy, we're all over the state for about a week and a half. And then let's see, what am I missing, Neil?
Detroit is a couple weeks after that. We've got one there.
Yeah, in June. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So that's what's coming up for us. We're excited to keep doing that. We're excited to just expand what we're doing right now. We just started on the same main channel. We just started doing badge cams as kind of bonuses now. So we're getting better at those and excited about that. And you're going to see, I just started on Extra. We started a new gun owners orientation for the millions of new firearms owners in America. And that's going to continue. And you're going to see us as well start a series on home defense carbine on the Extra channel for people getting one of their first AR-15 pattern Evil Black rifles. So if you're going to own one, you may as well know how to use it and know how to use it effectively. We're not going to teach, crazy hay bale jumping, multi-man room clearing stuff. We're going to teach people how to be good marksmen and how to operate the gun effectively and protect their homestead.
Where can they, some of our viewers that are more into the marketing side and the small business side, where can they find your YouTube information, your YouTube program that you were talking about earlier?
So we have a group, and it's just free for folks. It's called YouTube and Social Media Success Group on Facebook. And so you can find that just by searching that YouTube and / social media success. Or find me, John P. Correa, on the book face, and I can point you in that direction. And we teach there as well. It's just a mutually supportive group. I think we've got a few over 300 people that are in there trying to do social media success. And we don't sell products to each other. We try to help each other with good advice for how to succeed on social and build a presence. So, and we're doing it. I mean, we just, like I said, we just crossed and got a silver play button on a second channel. And so obviously what we're doing is working.
Awesome. Congratulations on that.
Now you got to put that for Cody on his channel. So
now we got to do it. The third one, man, completely biased food reviews is Cody's.
Yes, I'm a subscriber, a big subscriber. I think that was our first YouTube play for an opening box episode was on.
Oh yeah, that's right. Natalie and I did coffee there that time.
That's right. It's so fun.
It's awesome. Hey, I appreciate you guys coming on tonight and talking to us. I wish it was a little bit better circumstances around the nation, but I appreciate it. I really
anytime, man. Glad to help.
And I'll be back on here. I'm going to roll my credits here. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And tune in Thursday night. I'll be talking to Mike from Rising Rooster Coffee Roasters in Florida. He's my roaster of the month for next month, and we'll be featuring his dark roasted Ugandan. So tune in, visit us at roastersmarketplace.com. Thanks for watching.